What's up, guys, and welcome to a review of Squid Game. I know, everybody's talking about it. Everybody keeps saying it's the new big thing and we can't wait for season 2 and all that. But is it really that good? As good as people make it out to be? Kinda like how people made the same comments about The Witcher last year when everybody was like, oh my god, this is amazing and it's the most watched show of Netflix and all that. We kind of tend to use a lot of hyperbole nowadays, but is the show good? Well, short answer is yes. It is actually pretty good. It's really good, I would say. Now, for those of you that have watched anime, it actually reminds me a lot of this anime, not very well known anime show from years back called Kaiji. I believe that's what it was called. Because exact same, well, not the exact same concept, but very similar in concept. It's also about a bunch of people broke that really need a lot of money, go and play life or death games. The main difference, though, is that Kaiji was 100% gambling. 100%. Almost. No, you know what, now that I think about it, it's, I would say, like 80% gambling and 20% not gambling. Here, in Squid Game, I would say it's a little 50-50. There's definitely a reliance on gambling in certain aspects, certain games. But in certain other games, it's a test of wit, intelligence, physical ability, speed, reading your surroundings, using just whatever you can to your advantage, stuff like that. Now, this review is going to be 100% spoiler free. I abhor spoilers. Can't stand them. They ruin everything for me. You spoil a show for me, that's it. I'm not going to watch it. It's that simple. So, I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm going to keep it super vague. I'm not going to get into who lives, who dies, who goes there, who goes where. None of that. It's going to be super vague so that if you haven't seen it and you just want to know what it's kind of about, you can get a pretty good idea without losing any of like the suspense or the mystery or any of that. Now, the story, just from the beginning, just the very bare minimum foundation of the story is, it's a game show, kinda, where a bunch of down on their luck people that don't have any money, but desperately need some money, can play life or death games to get money. And a lot of it. Like tens of millions of dollars. Now they say billions, but that's like in like Korean currency, the won, which is kind of like the yen. So you kind of like need to divide that by hundreds, because it's compared to the cent really more than the dollar. So really, when you think about it, when you start watching it, it's actually just following the stories of a few main characters. Those are the ones that you actually follow. Everybody else is just fodder. They're just there to kind of like, just provide very simple interactions that last for like an episode at the most. So, now with a story like this that has been told before, this isn't something that we've never seen before. I mean, like I said, with Kaiji, to a certain extent Danganronpa, and a few other shows, you've probably seen that concept done before. The concept of, people in a life or death situation, and it's organized by some mysterious group of supposedly very rich organizers. It's not gonna blow your mind when you find out what it's all about. Because, I mean, come on. We've seen this concept before. We know how it's gonna be. Now, I'm not gonna say what it is just in case you've literally never seen a show like this before. But if you have, it's not gonna surprise you. So, a show like this lives or dies by the strength of its characters, the stories that you want to follow for each character. How invested are you in them living or dying, getting this or that, developing certain relationships, developing certain animosities, and so on. Now, side note, by the way, I watched it in Korean audio with subtitles. I didn't watch it dubbed. That's purely a preference thing. I don't know, dubs just kind of like throw me off whenever I see the audio just not matching perfectly with the lips. I don't know, it kind of like throws me off. So I decided to watch it in Korean, and the performances were good. Like, I can't really say with a couple of exceptions of maybe like certain weak links, you could say, that maybe like phoned it in, or a couple of people that were just a little over the top in a couple of scenes. But overall, it's definitely well acted. You can't really say, hey, these people didn't do a good job with their acting. No, it's good. Now, besides the performance, how are the characters written? Now, on that one, I think that's actually one of the show's big strengths, is it portrays many different characters from completely different backgrounds, almost, and they're all done well. They all bring something different to the show. You've got the person who's like really smart, who kind of like, gets it quicker than everybody else. You've got the person who's just slow. They're not smart. They're not talented. They're not gifted. They're just the average Joe, or maybe even in a way even below average Joe, that just is trying with what limited skills they have. You've got the really resourceful people. You've got the people who are physically gifted. You've got the thugs. And you see how different people approach it. People who are ruthless outside the game and bring that ruthlessness into the game as well. The people who are innocent, who were pure-hearted, and how they try to acclimatize with the game. Or maybe they don't. And the people who are just normal, and how they choose to approach the game. Do they shut their emotions off to be able to live with the fact that they're in a life or death game that might require them to sacrifice other people? Or are they not able to come to terms with that? Now, on that, I think the show did a very, very good job of not just clear-cuttingly saying, hey, here's the bad guy, here's the good guy. It leaves it a bit more, shall I say, nuanced. There are certain characters that are definitely bad. There's not much redeeming qualities in these characters. The thugs, you could say. The people who are crappy outside the game and are crappy inside the game and are villains. They're just evil. And then there are people who are torn. They're not wired to be evil or to hurt people, but they have to in order to survive certain encounters or certain games, you could say. Now, the show explores a lot of different aspects, some a little less than I hoped it would. Other than that, of course, I will say that I felt it's 9 episodes, so if you divide it into first, middle, and third act, or like first act, second act, third act, beginning, middle, and end, whatever. I felt like the beginning and the middle were a little stronger than the end. I'm not saying it botched the ending, but I will say that I felt to me that it peaked at episode 6, and afterwards it was kind of like just not as good. There were also a couple of plot lines that they've spent quite a bit of time with in the 9 episodes that did not really lead to much, that I just could not really care that much about. Maybe they'll be more important in season 2, but as of right now, just did not feel like it just led to like certain things where you were just sitting there, or at least I was sitting there going like, okay, I guess this is supposed to be like a huge reveal, but I feel absolutely nothing. So now, I mean, again, this is only season 1. They did say already that they're making season 2, and I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 and 6. If it continues to be that successful, hopefully they don't milk it, and hopefully we don't have another Game of Thrones situation. Yeah, still remember it. Still remember Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones. What the heck happened with that? Oh, sorry. Back to Squid Game. So, another game, but this time of squids. Now, honestly, it will be a little tough to get into further details than this without getting into spoiler territory. But really, in summary, I would say that the story itself, while nothing unpredictable, it didn't go somewhere I didn't think it would go. It kind of ended on what I thought it would end on, which was ever so slightly disappointing. I guess maybe I was expecting kind of like that Game of Thrones element where you're like, oh my god, well, in the first few seasons at least, where you're like, oh my god, I can't believe that this happened, or that happened, or oh, that person survived, or that person didn't, or whatever. It kind of ends on what you would expect from any like normal show. But I mean, that's not really like a flaw, but I guess predictability is not always the best thing. Oftentimes it isn't. Character-wise, I think it did a very, very good job with the variety and the quality of the character writing, for sure. Now, is it worth watching? I would definitely say yes. Especially since it's only 9 episodes. You're not committing to like 24 episodes like some TV shows. It's only 9. Heck, episode 8 was only like half an hour too, so it's like not really that long. I mean, sure, some of the other episodes were like an hour long, so still. Probably like once you skip like the credits and stuff, it's probably like 8 hours of runtime total, I think, maybe. I didn't do any research on that one, so whoops. But yeah, maybe like 8 hours of runtime. So you could probably finish it in like a week or less. I would say it's worth it. I would say it's definitely worth watching. And I'm interested in what might be coming in season 2, especially the way season 1 ended. I'm a little concerned. I'm hoping season 2 is not just gonna be, hey, here's like 6 different games with just a new cast and exact same thing. Hopefully it builds a little bit on what was already established in this season, and well, because if it leads to something like Danganronpa, if any of you guys have played it, it kind of like ended on a disappointing note for me, that I hope this show doesn't do the same thing, because if it does, it's gonna lead to exactly where you think it's leading, and that's not good. You do want to at least have some surprises. They did have a couple of surprises in the show. Not huge ones. Not anything I was like mind blown by. But a couple of elements, I would say, were definitely, I would say, a pleasant surprise. Again, unfortunately, none of those were in the final act. The final act kind of goes almost exactly how you think it would, just based on how you expect things to go, if you've seen a lot of shows. But yeah. If I had to give it a score on a scale of like 1 to 10, I would probably give it like maybe like a 7.5. Like, it's a really good show. Not amazing. It's got potential. It's definitely got potential, for sure. And it did have some amazing bits. Like, if you had asked me for a rating, for example, when I was just at episode like 6, when I just finished the first and second act, or the beginning and middle, I probably would have given it higher, maybe like an 8 or an 8.5. But based on how the whole thing wrapped up, not as exciting as I hoped it would be. So I'm gonna give it like a 7.5. Now 7.5 is still a good score. So I would say watch it. Now, since this is a show that really needs a deep dive, if you're gonna talk about what worked and what didn't, I'm gonna be doing a deep dive. Maybe episode by episode might be a little too much, so I might be doing like episode 1 to 3, 4 to 6, and then 7 to 9, and just, you know, take it by like first, second, and third act and read it that way, and kind of like get into like the spoilers and the details. So those deep dives are definitely not for people who have not watched the show. If you don't want to know what's going to happen, don't watch those. I kept it super vague in this one to just kind of like give you a very, very unspoilery idea of what to expect from the show and how good or what worked and what didn't work in it. But in those, we're going to be going into spoilers, discussing everything that worked and everything that didn't work. Be on the lookout for those, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for checking this out.